Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another video. This morning, I want to look at the chart of renowned jazz singer Billie Holiday. I did Aretha Franklin yesterday, and it made me think about Billie Holiday. And I mean, I used to listen to Billie Holiday a lot back when I listened to music. Don't really listen to music anymore. Um, but she's great. She's incredible. Um, such a so much power and passion in her voice, really deep feeling. We really get a sense of like, oh my God, like there's real impact to her music. She's born April 7th, 1915, 2:30 a.m. in Philadelphia, PA. That's where I was born, Philly. I get it. I get why she sings the blues. She was born in Philly. Um, yeah, that's almost funny, but it's not. Anyway, Uh, Sun in Aries, that's an exalted sun. Sun in Aries is excellent because it's a real go-getter. Um, this is a very action-oriented sun, a sun that really just, it's not a people pleaser like Sun in Libra. It does what it wants. It does what it needs to do. It just goes out and gets it. It can initiate action because Aries is a sign of initiating action. It can be very inspiring, have leadership potential, and it's just a dynamic, strong, powerful sun. It's conjunct the third house cusp, so expression, right? Communication. Um, and just right off the bat, we can see this incredible second house moving into the third house, and that's what we want. We want second, third house significations. Taurus and Gemini, if also would be good to see, and naturally Venus and Mercury, right? And we're getting all that, right? But one thing at a time. So Sun is ruling the seventh house, so seventh into the third. That's great because seventh house is the house of others. It's the house of not only relationships, but the masses and performance, right? When we perform on a stage, that's going to be the angles predominantly, even the fourth somewhat. But here it's like, the masses of people. 10th, it's, their career recognition. First is the self, the shining of the self, and fourth has to do with the home and early childhood life, but also like it can include nighttime. So sometimes like nighttime performances, in real estate. So you'll see like somebody performing in a nightclub. That could also be on the fourth house cusp, right? Speaking of which, she has the mean Lilith conjunct Algol there. So, I mean, that's something, you know. Performing in Harlem in nightclubs with the Lilith conjunct Algol, Algol being the root word of alcohol, drugs and alcohol. Very fitting for Lady Day, as she was known. That's what they called her. I don't know why, but Algol is where people, that's the most malefic star, it's called, and where planets are placed there, a person can easily be sucked into drugs and alcohol, things of that nature. The lower realms, the lower chakras, the eighth sphere, as they would call it in anthroposophy, Steiner occultism. But yeah, Lilith, dark moon Lilith conjunct Algol on the fourth house cusp. That's very, very telling. True Lilith is in the third. Still undecided about. I like to look at the mean and the true things. Normally I do that with the nodes, but this one just has the true node. I'll just leave it for now. Anyway, moon's in Capricorn. Moon's debilitated, and you know who else? Interestingly enough, had the debilitated Capricorn moon sorry, not debilitated, in detriment, because it's in rulership in Cancer, in detriment, who had a very similar life. Now her name is Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse has a Capricorn moon. Amy Winehouse died much younger, at 27 Club. Billie Holiday died at 44, but remarkably similar, big time difference. But both had their battles with drugs and alcohol, both jazz singers. Of course, Amy Winehouse is much more pop, much more modern, but interesting. Anyway, 12th house is the house of creativity. It's also the house of escapism, loss, and foreign lands, hospitals, jails. She was arrested. She spent time in jail for narcotics. We'd see that in the 12th house, especially with Moon and bad dignity in Capricorn. Isolation, foreign lands, things like that. So 12th house is a house of loss. 6th house is a house of disputes, and she had a lot of disputes, like court cases and things like that. She was always getting into trouble. After she was arrested for narcotics, she spent time in jail. Not a long time, but still time. And she was banned from playing in nightclubs anymore, interestingly enough, which is where she got her fame, her start in Harlem nightclubs. That's right. She had a rough childhood. Her father left young, and then her mother was, very poor, and she was raised by, I think she spent a lot of time with other people besides her mother. And she suffered abuse. She dropped out of school early, I think late age 11, started working very young, was even she was caught, like the neighbor or somebody was about to rape her or was in the process of raping her, and her mother caught him and pushed him off and stopped the rape, basically. Anyway, very, very difficult childhood, a lot of abuse, poverty, neglect, isolation, solitude, things like that. Right. Interesting. That's Venus is in Pisces, so Venus is exalted, conjunct the second house cusp. That's ruling the 4th house, but the moon. So then, some aspects of her child must have been good, according to this. But moon often does relate to mother and early childhood, and that is loss and bad dignity. So like difficulty, a lot of difficulty with relating to the mother and childhood. Ascendant is in Aquarius with Uranus in the 1st house and North Node. So naturally very rebellious, very different, very out of the box, not a conformist, really just wanting to do her own thing, be completely unique, independent minded. And, I certainly can see that very much in who she was, because she was just, she was an icon. She was a rebel. She was she changed music. She changed jazz music. She changed the way people thought about jazz performance, singing, just the whole style. She was really unique unto herself. They call it jazz, but I just want to call it Billie Holiday, right? Yeah, of course, there is that very strong jazz influence, but it's really unique unto herself. She's in her own category, and that's very much having to do with the Aquarius, the Uranus and Aquarius in the 1st house. Very much her own person. Aquarius is disposited by, co-ruled by Uranus, but also Saturn. Saturn is in Gemini in the 5th house. So Gemini, again, for the expression, for the ability to use the voice, not necessarily the quality of the voice, but the way she can use it. And she definitely came up with her own unique style. She was not a mimicry, like she was not just a parrot repeating things that came before. She really came up with her own unique way of doing things. And so, ascendant Lord in the fifth house in Gemini is great for that expressive ability. It is Saturn and it is square Pluto. So this is not a easy combination. I mean, Saturn, it is out of sign, but still, Saturn conjunct Pluto is very, very heavy, very, very serious, very hardworking, takes all the fun out of life. In the fifth house, this is somebody who has a very difficult time enjoying life, right? Because fifth house is our house of play. It's our house of creativity. It's our house of, games and joy and fun and adventure. And it's a very, it's Leo's original house. So it's a very heartfelt house, and when we have Saturn and Pluto and Saturn's ruling the ascendant, yes, there's going to be a lot of creativity because it is the ascendant Lord. But Pluto is going to make it very difficult. Pluto is going to make it very deep and very heavy, right? We don't get the sense about Billie Holiday that she was this light, happy, yes, successful, yes, extremely talented, but there's something so dark and heavy about Billie Holiday, right? Her music, it's always about, she loves the abuser and drugs and alcohol and, this sad, sad tale. That's Pluto conjunct her ascendant Lord, which her ascendant Lord is Saturn. The joy is gone. There's only hard work and responsibility and duty. And she had that. And she did not have a successful, famous, wonderful life. I mean, her mother was very much a drain on her. Her mother would borrow money to support her own, I think it was a restaurant once she started making money, and she wasn't making tons of money. She was making money. But then her mother would not, when she was on hard times, when Billie was on hard times, her mother would not give her any money back. So, I mean, her mother was a drain on her financially, and she was not making tons of money, and she was working hard. And then she did gain some success, right? And we can see a lot of that with the second house, because second house will be wealth, assets, how much money you're going to make, along with 11th house. And we can see like what kind of yogas she has. Speaking Vedic astrology, yogas meaning combinations. So 11th and second Lord, which is Jupiter, one and the same in the second house, excellent for money. Venus is here, excellent as well. And then, Pallas Athena doesn't really play into it very much. Chiron, probably not great. Mars and Mercury, a huge stellium in Pisces in the second house. First of all, massive creativity, massive Piscean influence, which is, again, the creative, the spiritual, the subconscious, but also escapism, drugs, and alcohol. And we know it's notorious. She was notorious for having a drug habit and alcohol habit. In fact, she died of liver cirrhosis caused by alcoholism. But drugs and alcohol, I mean, that's very common with Pisces placements. Of course, the potential for, very, psychic or spiritual development is also there, but it depends on the person, how they're going to use the Piscean energy. That's why you can't just say, oh, you have tons of Pisces energy, you're so spiritual. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. There's all different levels. Every single sign, planet, house is going to have levels, the lower expression and the higher expression. So the drugs and alcohol is obviously a lower expression of Piscean energy. The immense creativity is a middle, like middle or high, depending on how you use it, lower, middle, high, whatever. Anyway, immense creativity, fantastic, vocal presence, power. I mean, even when she was older and her voice got gravelly from all the abuse, she still made beautiful music. I mean, you can't fault her. It's part of who she is, right? It's all that Pisces energy, the ascendant Lord Saturn conjunct Pluto, this very heavy, dark energy that makes you, it's like when you listen to her, you're getting in touch with the darkness, which is okay. It's not, we don't have to have like this light, airy, fairy, contrived reality, because we have to get in touch with our own darkness. We have to go there in order to elevate it and to bring it up. If we just reject that part of ourselves, it stays trapped within us, so we can really feel that very strongly with Billie Holiday. And we're saying that we could see that again with this grand water trine, right? And Mars, it would be the MC Lord, 10th house Lord, is making really strong aspect. It's trine, it's the MC. So that's excellent for career. Excellent. When the MC Lord is either making a good aspect, like conjunct or sextile or trine, or even opposition is fine. Sometimes a square will do as well. Anyway, just some aspect, some good aspect will, the better the aspect, the better it is. But so she should have, like, you would think, okay, we can see the voice, obviously, because, Jupiter is in Pisces in here and Venus is here, right? And Mars, the third house Lord, is in the second house, so we want to see second, third house combinations. So voice, definitely. And then we should also say, well, money too, right? Money should be great. Well, why did she die penniless? And why wasn't she, like super wealthy like she should be? Well, she did have some money. She was making money, good money at some times, but Mercury is ruling the 8th house cusp in Virgo, and Mercury is debilitated in Pisces, right? Exalted. It's not only debilitated, it's in detriment too, because it's exalted and in domicile in Virgo. So we're bringing some very negative, heavy energy from the 8th house into the second house of assets, and causing her to lose money at times. Money went up, money went down. And that's what the 8th house does. It causes, sudden loss, sudden, destruction, things like that, sudden death, crises. So she would have money and then she would lose money, and she died poor. Basically, she got a raw deal from, the greedy record execs. I believe that was the case. Like she did not receive the proper royalties that she should have for her music, even though she was successful. Her success actually came more even after she was dead. That does have to do with Saturn being the ascendant lord, but Saturn also conjunct Pluto, and then Saturn square Mercury, Mars, Chiron, even Jupiter to a wide degree. It's her ascendant lord and it's Saturn, so it's bringing out really difficult aspects of Saturn. So Saturn is a really difficult planet for her because it's her ascendant lord, and conjunct Pluto, which means her own destruction is going to bring her down. Her own destructive tendencies. Pluto is incredibly destructive, potentially. The way to make Pluto work is through intense spirituality. Pluto is not an easy planet to deal with, right? It's often highly destructive, but highly powerful and creative potential, right? And so Pluto is a blessing and a curse for her, because it gives her so much raw, powerful, deep, feeling. And it's also in Cancer, so it's out of sign from Mercury, but it's bringing in that deep emotional potential at 0 degrees. So 0 degrees planets are a bit like out of bounds planets. They can just go to extremes. Speaking of out of bounds, Moon is out of bounds, right? So is Lilith, and then Neptune is stationary. So let's look at that. So out of bounds Moon, it's good and bad. It's very difficult because then you see out of bounds Moon with Sag Moon, Capricorn Moon, Gemini Moon, and Cancer Moon predominantly, because they're near the solstice. So they're going to be the most extreme, and the most balanced will be Virgo, Libra, Aries, Pisces, I guess. But an out of bounds Moon will cause wide emotional swings, but the moon being so such a powerful, such an important planet, such a central planet, it also creates it can create like revolutionaries, like genius types, ingenious, people who just push the boundaries and who go further and who do things further. Same with any out of balance planet, but moon really especially because it's such a central core planet to who we are. So like she's gonna take her moon, her emotionality, to further degrees than other people would have. And Lilith, true Lilith, mean Lilith, conjunct the fourth. I think, again, her sexuality, her feminine sexuality, pushing that boundaries there as well. And she had a very, it's a subtle quality. It's not overt, it's not in your face, but it's very powerful, very strong. Feminine sexuality. That's strong Lilith, out of balance Lilith. Right? And then Neptune is stationary. This is fantastic. Not only is it in Cancer, very emotional sign, but it's pretty much conjunct the descendant. I know it's out of sign, so from the 6th, but it's still influencing the descendant. So there's very strong influence on her performance, like her ability to relate to the crowd, with this emotional impact. And it's trining the MC as well. So even though it's not the ruler, it's still influencing that, and trining the Mercury and Mars somewhat, the expression, right? And so Neptune has this glamorous, creative, fantasy thing that's great for any of the creative arts, great for performance. It has it has an aura about it, Neptune. It can create this illusion, this fantasy of something magical and ideal, right? So when people are artists or performers, they can really use Neptune or film, film, photography, movies, things like that. It creates a really magical quality to it, because it's delusion, fantasy. So like somebody can dress up, being on stage, and project this aura that's completely made up, that's fantasy, but nonetheless, it's extremely powerful. It can project this thing, this magical illusion, this ideal quality. Right? So her ability to perform and relate to others in this way, and it gives her, even her voice, this magical quality. Right? Very powerful. Stationary planets are the most powerful, and this is opposite her moon too. And Neptune, like Pisces, on the negative end, is associated with drugs and alcohol because it's the co-ruler of Pisces. So opposite her moon, illusion, delusion, escapism, fantasy, drugs, alcohol, creativity, very high. But yeah, all those things. It was hard for her. I mean, having such a difficult upbringing, and then having enough money but not being taken advantage of. And then the Pluto conjunct Saturn. I mean, it's like, I would be surprised if she wasn't doing drugs and alcohol, looking at this chart, like really, it's tough. Anyway, South Node in Leo, in the 7th house. So this is giving her a really strong connection to fame, to performance, to recognition, to the crowd, to others. She really knows how to connect with people. She really knows how to relate to people. It's very natural for her to perform and to just connect with others, with the audience, right? In Leo, that's very, very strong. It's just an innate talent. Anything, wherever the South Node is, that's what coming in from birth. You don't need to learn it, you just know it. So she knew how to be this performer on stage, relating to the crowd, connecting with the crowd, like so strong, so powerful. North Node is in Aquarius in the first house. So she was, as she was getting older, she's becoming much more independent. And that's a difficult transition when you become so dependent, so used to relationships. And that's what South Node in the seventh is all about. I have South Node in the seventh, so I understand. Like you just become really dependent upon relationships. You become used to them. And that's also why she could sing so powerfully about relationships, because it was something that she knew deeply and intimately. By the way, South Node in the seventh is going to produce a lot of bad relationships because you're not meant to, that's not where you're, that's your past. It's not the future. So she's having all these bad relationships that don't work, yet she doesn't, she's attached to them. There's a clinging because that's what happens with the South Node. North Node is all about becoming independent and becoming your own person. And it's North Node in the first is not great for relationships. So as relationships are fading away and she's, it's a hard transition to move into your North Node. And with all the escapist tendencies, drugs and alcohol, as she got older, it just became more and more difficult. Besides, Uranus and Aquarius are such independent planets and signs. I mean, she was just becoming more and more alone. She was becoming more powerful in her own being. But without the proper, with the seduction of drugs and alcohol, right? It's not just Lilith, it's her IC is basically conjunct Algol. So there's a lot about her upbringing that drove her more towards that drugs and alcohol, right? It's amazing. Algol, alcohol, right? Okay. And she has tons of indicators of this. It's like not just one thing, it's so many things. It's all these Pisces placements. It's ascendant Lord Saturn conjunct Pluto. It's this grand water trine. It's Neptune opposite Moon. It's Moon in the 12th, in detriment, right? There's so much indicators of potential drug and alcohol abuse, but also creativity, high creativity. Alcohol too has a very high creative potential. So the problem was that this North Node conjunct, it's widely conjunct, but it's still conjunct Uranus in Aquarius. There's too much independence in her future. That means relationships would naturally just fall away. She would have to be alone. She would really have to be strong in herself. And that's a hard transition. I know that's what I need to do. And a lot of people need to do, but it's not easy. So yeah, her health was destroyed. I mean, sixth house ruler, Moon, in the 12th in detriment. This is not so good for health, not at all. Opposite Neptune, right? And then ascendant Lord, Saturn, conjunct Pluto, also not great for health. Square with all these squares. This is very difficult for her health because, so we'd want to look at that, the health would be first house and Aquarius, Lord, ruler, which would be Saturn. We look to for the physical. For the, spiritual, mental, the co-rulers like the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they have a more subtle and powerful, but less physical influence, more energetic. So this is in good dignity, Uranus in Aquarius, but Saturn conjunct Pluto in Gemini, that's difficult with all these squares. So her health and, and then Moon in Capricorn in the 12th, opposite Neptune, that's difficult. That's definitely a challenge. The nodes are square, the MC and IC. So that's definitely pointing to some destined relationship between her early upbringing and her career. There was a lot of very powerful destined things that happened to her in her life. Karmic. When I say karmic, what I'm referring to, because people mean so many things when they say karmic, and it's just sort of like this catch-all word to mean anything kind of mystical and woo-woo that we don't really understand. The way I'm referring to it is sort of like soul contracts. that these were destined soul contract events that she was meant to happen, have happened to her. A very difficult upbringing, and the career, the very powerful career that has just grown stronger since her death. Yeah, so that's interesting. Also, Lilith is exactly square. Mean Lilith, not the true Lilith. Mean Lilith. Square the nodes. So that's significant. It indicates that Lilith, is a very strong, very significant point for her. Same with Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe had it on the ascendant. I think it was on the ascendant. Anyway, yeah. So you'll see this sometimes with very powerful, strong women who have this kind of like sexuality to them. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for Billie Holiday. She almost has what's called the Kalasarpa yoga. No, it would be the it would be the different one. Because the nodes are going backwards. So this is a south node one. Anyway, insignificant. Moon's outside of it. That's pretty much it for Billie Holiday. One of the greatest singers, musical. I mean, she was more than a singer. Obviously, she changed music. She really created a whole new, not genre, but I guess style. And she really opened the box, pushed the envelope, broadened the whole sphere of what's possible with music. So, I mean, I just have a lot of appreciation for her, and I think she's excellent. So, anyway, that's it, guys. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. If you want to book a reading, go to my website, macroastrology.com. And that's pretty much it for now. You want to write any comments below, go for it. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.